Hey, what is up guys? This is one from Cosmic Fury, and on this video I'll be talking about Surgeon X issue number 1 from Image Comics. So what has happened is that I went to Kinokuniya recently to get some trade paperbacks and like to check out like what's new. So I came across their single issue comics section, and I saw this Surgeon X issue number 1. To be honest, I know nothing about Surgeon X. I know nothing about their debut writer on this, Sarah Kenny, if I pronounce it correctly. And the entire team, I basically I know nothing of their previous work. As far as the writer is concerned, this is her first ever debut in writing comics. So yeah, I know very little about it. So yeah, basically what attracts me to the comic, like the cover itself, there's not a lot of going on. It looks like a very biomedical kind of magazine, kind of like a design. The color itself, there's not a lot going on. It's very two-tone, like black and white and a little bit of red for the logo. Other than that, there's not a lot of color going on. But what it does display, apart from the color itself, is a lady in a surgical mask holding a scalpel knife. So other than that, it's one of those buys where I like, you know what, I'm just gonna buy this comic and see if it surprises me. So did it? I guess. Well, what has has been going on in the story itself, like it's not my typical kind of like read where, you know, it's if it's not superheroes, it's something to do with military conspiracy stuff. Like, out of everything that I have ever read, I think this is by far the most medical driven sort of a story in my entire like stock of comics that I have. So this is pretty new to me. So has it entertained me? Yes, it is very much an entertaining story, but not exactly my cup of tea. But what it does to me after reading this first issue, it made me somewhat feel a little bit intelligent about about the medical world, which I have like very little knowledge about. Okay, so what exactly is Surgeon X? So this is where I would say a little bit of spoiler comes in. So if you are not okay with it, you can just like turn away right about now. But if you're okay, we're gonna continue. So okay, what exactly is happening in Surgeon X? So basically the timeline in Surgeon X takes place in London 2038. So that's about like a few years into the future. Like the synopsis is like there's a bit of mixture of sci-fi and medical drama, but the way I look at it in this first issue, most of it is medical drama, but the sci-fi element not so much, because I mean there are automated taxis, but apart from the like real sci-fi stuff, there's not a lot of the element, but it does take place in the future. And so 2038 is pretty like a few years down the line, but 2016 itself has been mentioned in one of the panels. So basically what has happened is that in London, the current government is controlling the amount of antibiotics that is supposed to be, like, you know, prescribed to their citizens. Basically it's been controlled. It's like the government puts down the law to every medical doctor out there, like public medical institutions or like hospitals and stuff like that. Like, you can only prescribe to people with the highest priority, and anybody below that you can't really issue any antibiotics. So basically, even if you are in dire situation and you need that antibiotic, if you are not those like top 10% of people, you're probably not gonna get it and you probably die. And the situation has come to a point where it's a medical apocalypse, or Armageddon, or how you want to put it. In a sense, like, okay, basically for antibiotics, you know, for me, if I were to go to the doctor, in all honesty, if a doctor would give me antibiotics, and this thing basically in my mind, in the back of my mind, okay, if the doctor was going to give me some medicine and antibiotics is always going to be part of the few amount of pills he's going to give me, it's like, okay, as long as I take this, I'm going to be like, recovering after that and not going to be sick. So basically, in the back of my mind, I don't really care what antibiotics do as long as it works. So basically, this story in Surgeon X, it makes me think about, okay, what exactly does antibiotic do to the body? I'm not a medical student, maybe I have a read about it. So I did. And the thing that the story revolves around is actually some of it are actual medical facts. Apart from antibiotics, the thing, the story that incorporates in Surgeon X is a actual real life medical crisis, so to speak. So because it revolves around the story about the overusing of antibiotics, there is a concern worldwide that that antibiotics are being overused. So antibiotic overuse is one of those factors that contributes towards the growing number of bacterial infections which are becoming resistant to antibacterial medications. So this is according to the CDC, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, which they put out this report back in 19 November 2012. That's like a couple of years back. So basically what Sarah Kenny has done here is that basically she's taking a current real medical issue which is still ongoing and put it into Surgeon X. So because of this thing, it puts a situation like, if we are not controlling the current situation right now, that antibiotics are being prescribed more than they should to people who probably don't need it, and it's being unchecked to the point in 2038 in Surgeon X, government has completely controlled the amount of usage. So in that retrospect, what Surgeon X shows is that what could be the possibility if that comes to the worst case scenario, and that's it. So it's pretty surprising and entertaining in such a way, like, hey, it makes you think, if this is going to be the thing, it's the situation is really bad. It's really part of a crisis, because antibiotics are there to make your body to be able to combat bacteria, stuff like that. So like for example, if you have STDs or some pneumonia, antibiotics are the ones that will be the one helping you to fight off these bacteria. But in Surgeon X, they put it in a situation where bacteria are constantly evolving to the point where antibiotics are not working anymore. So it's like a layman's term, like for example, if you have an antivirus for your computer and you haven't updated the latest patch for over 10 years, and eventually new Trojan viruses will be much stronger, and then they develop, and then basically making your antivirus useless. So that's the layman terms of it. And like so then comes the main character, Rosa, who is a medical so-called a medical surgeon, and a lot of the characters, even the side characters, most of them are medical related sort of characters. They're either some kind of somebody involved in autopsy and stuff like that, like surgeons, medical doctors and what so have you. She has this younger brother who is also part of a medical line within the family. Like everybody in Rosa's family, the main character is somewhat related to some practice. So, but the younger brother is sort of a schizophrenic, and but he is very loyal to her, and basically he's like her personal assistant. And what Rosa plans out to do is that she wants to save everybody, very naively trying to save everybody she can, and in a very like DIY kind of way. What I mean by DIY is that because she is against the establishment, so to speak, and for her to be able to save people, she's saying a big F you to the big government and big pharmaceutical companies. If you won't let me have the antibiotics. I'm gonna take matters in my into my own hands. And that's exactly what she did. So basically, in her home, in a house in a basement, she has made this like a very DIY, but kind of like a futuristic, kind of like a surgery room. So what she has been doing in certain flashbacks is that she has, like, you know, without medical aid, she's the one trying to pioneer that, like, you know, without antibiotics, what can I do in terms of surgery to save people, you know. From there, learning how to counter attack the new and ongoing, you know, viruses and bacteria and all that. So it's kind of like a very interesting take on, like, you know, the extremes, you know. Like, think about it, like way back in 1700s, or when was the first time people actually started doing autopsy. Like, back then there wasn't any kind of like penicillin. You know, penicillin was found way back in what, World War One or World War Two. It was like a long time ago. So before that, people didn't really had like pills or medicine, you know, to counteract pains and diseases like that. But mankind has learned so much throughout, you know, medical research, like surgery, autopsy, you know, like all those things, and learn what to do and what not to do before the idea of making medicine into a pill came about. So this is revolving back into that notion that, you know, that Rosa, the main character, like, you know, maybe I have to do this to, you know, to combat this situation. Like, right now we don't have medical means in form of a pill, you know. Probably I have to do it in such a way. So basically, this is what Surgeon X is. Like, I'm really, I'm obviously, as you can see, I'm pretty entertained, you know. Like, it's different. It's different. Like, if you're into like reading, you know, the Marvel DC stuff, the superhero stuff, you're not gonna get it here. You're not gonna get an ounce of that in here. This is a story that has medical, somewhat, I think probably 70% of it is based on medical fact, current medical situations, which people don't talk about, because people always been talking about like world crisis, you know, the presidential debates and stuff, but not a lot of people actually cover grounds on the medical, like, ongoings, which is really current and could be, you know, a big situation and stuff like that. So, and honestly, I feel a little bit more educated, you know, because I really don't care of how beneficial an antibiotic set of pills could be, but I did learn, like, oh, this is how it works. But too much of it, of course, too much of everything is bad. So yeah, like, I guess this is one of those like purchases that, you know, you know, I could like probably not be entertained, and I could just like give the comic away, and, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal. But to me, like, whoa, this is one of those comics, like, it's either you like it or you don't, or if you are into medical drama and a little bit of sci-fi and what could be a situation in the future if we don't take care of things, Surgeon X is for you. So so I got it about like $6 to run off the price at Kinokuniya. So I guess it's pretty okay. It's pretty decent. I'm definitely gonna look forward to the next issue, because this definitely kept me, like, you know, thinking. There's a lot of dialogue, and there are of course a few like action, not really action sequence, like riot situations. You know, there are explosions and attempted assassinations in this, but the plot thickens at the very last page, which is pretty nice, because like everything is like a very like DIY, rebellious, kind of like a guerrilla kind of like moments, and then suddenly there's like this big corporation that comes along. So and you will see exactly who this person, how he or she relates to everybody else. So which is kind of like interesting. Of course, pretty much I'm looking forward to the next issue, and yeah, pretty much that's all I have to say. Like what else? Okay, the art it's okay. It's not too flashy, slightly dark because everything's like not well lit in the grim future, and the colors are pretty okay. Like I said, the tone of it is pretty dark. Like once it's flashes back into the current time of 2038. Everything is gloomy, but before that, everything's like bright and dandy and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, if you are into medical stuff, probably check it out. But if you're into superhero stuff, probably not your cup of tea. So yeah, pretty much that's it. I'm One from Cosmic Fear. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video on me talking about Surgeon X issue number 1 from Image Comics. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the day, and cheers man. Like, comment and subscribe.